excited. I think I might be jumping out of my skin because we are here tonight with three amazing mentors, two personal friends. Peter, I'm just meeting for the first time tonight. I'm so excited. And Lynda, Mullaly and Kathryn, Otoshi, and Peter Reynolds are all here joining us tonight at the Ed Collab to have a conversation about building community and empathy through books. And who better to have than these authors whose books are truly heart print books that touch the minds, the hearts, and the hands of our kids. And I am so excited. Everyone knows that I am a geek. I am a total fangirl. I have my fangirl shirt on. I'm going to try to control myself. I'm going to get through a few things that are, orders of business that I have to take care of for Chris, who says thank you, thank you, thank you to Peter and Lynda and Kathryn for being here. And he's actually at the summit for the NCFL today, so he'll be joining us through Twitter if he can in between an event. First thing that I wanted to say is thank you to the authors and to all of our Ed Collab friends who are joining us. And we're going to have a really unique opportunity tonight to have a conversation with the authors live streaming where you can hear us chat and also ask and answer questions from you. So we're going to have multitasking happening through a Twitter feed and through the questions that we provide you to ask, as well as those questions that we'd like to hear from you. I hear a little bit of static and feedback on my mic. Does anyone else hear that, or is it just me?
No,
we're good
here.
Okay, sorry about that. All right. So as far as the announcements go, I know we have another slide that Chris wanted me to share about some upcoming events. There's so many things to celebrate. Every day is a celebration of teaching and learning and growing together. And through the Educator Collaborative, another event that's coming up soon, two events that Chris wanted me to mention. One is a continuing opportunity through the study series where we have Chad Everett and Donalyn Miller talking about getting readers really ready for reading. And also we have another Ed Collab gathering coming up in the spring on April 8th. We're so excited that we have Phil Bildner, author and fan of all of ours. We're all a fan of his. Elizabeth Acevedo, another author and poet, and Bemi Rude Perkovich, who's going to talk about student voice and choice and really be a celebration of all of that. So I wanted to mention that in the beginning so people have a chance to hear about it, remember, and then we can maybe even encourage you to participate or to put in a proposal to present. So now we get to the good stuff, which is our authors. Yay! Welcome, welcome, welcome. So we're going to use the usual format of the Ed Collab with a hashtag for those of you following us on Twitter. And we are going to start with an important question for our authors, which is, it's such a huge opportunity to get to connect our dots, as Peter said, and to talk with one another. And we get to learn from you about where you get your ideas for writing. Thursday is a National Day of Writing celebration. And so we get to hear from you, where do you get your ideas for writing? Who would like to start?
I'll jump in. I'll jump in and start. So
okay,
I'm Mullaly. I'm author of Fish in a Tree and One for the Murphys. And, as you're asking that question, and things are starting to spin in my head, I'm very in touch with my 12-year-old self for whatever reason. And when I think back to my life at that age, there are certain things that happened or were said that sort of made my stomach roll, or just I experienced a really strong emotion, and both of my books are built on those experiences. So I won't go into a lot of detail, but 6th grade was a very emotional year for me. And so Fish in a Tree was written as I tried to drill into those emotions in 6th grade. And it was a thank you note to my 6th grade teacher. The guy saved me. Absolutely saved me. So that's where I get my ideas.
Love that. Kathryn, would you like to share?
Sure. I'm in a similar kind of position as far as where I get my ideas from life. And for example, Beautiful Hands came from my friend Brett Baumgarten's question to his children, what will your beautiful hands do today? So, he was very sick, and we found out that he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. But, part of my books, like with one, for example, I asked kids to do one kind thing for somebody else every day. And I thought that I would take what I asked kids to do into my own life. And I thought about Brett and remembered he always wanted to do a kid's book. So the question that he would ask his children every day became an entire book. But yes, everything that I do is something that I'm experiencing in life, and I feel compelled to write about it. So.
Love that. Thank you. And Peter?
Well, I guess I have what is called story radar. My brain is just on this sort of constant hunt for great ideas, and really the center of all great stories is really the idea. And there are two questions that I like to ask myself. What would I like to see more of in the world, and what would I like to see less of in the world? And those two questions help generate for me. And of course, one of the big ideas is I would love to see more bravery in the world, more confidence, and people defending their own ideas, because in the end, that's what it's all about, having an original idea. But a lot of our original ideas don't make it through because people edit and squash and steamroll, and we also learn how to self-edit. So I think that's for me, packing my mission into the book is what inspires me and what generates ideas.
I love hearing all of you share those experiences, and the fact that you said, you know, the emotions are such a big part of it, and that you said, you know, what you hope and dream and want for the world, which is really what brought this group together. Each of you have such powerful texts that, you know, teachers all over use as co-teachers. Those books are co-teachers because of the experiences the characters have had, because of your gift in teaching us through story and sharing those stories that impact the lives of our kids. So we can't really thank you enough that you're here to share the behind the scenes stories about where you get your ideas. And I can't write fast enough because I'm jotting down notes and things as you're talking, because what an opportunity I know for the teachers and friends who are following along to be able to go back and to share with their students, like, this is what I learned and heard from Peter Reynolds or Lynda Mullaly Hunt or Kathryn Otoshi, because it's the real live authors in our classrooms that make a big difference. So yes, the books are powerful tools, but it's the voices and the stories behind that. So I can't thank you enough for that. And we're also asking people, as we're asking you these questions, to use the hashtag, the EdCollab, so that people could then share the ideas they have for writing. And I know Chris and Ryan are monitoring some of that as well, so that we can figure out and hear and learn from one another. And I can't wait to go back and to follow some of this thread in learning from my colleagues and teachers who are joining along. So, and you guys will have an opportunity to do that as well. We'll share everything with you. So the next question that I wanted to ask, and you kind of sort of addressed it a little bit, Peter, in your response, and also with Kathryn, play a role in making the world a better place. You know, we're talking about community, and the word unity is in there. We want to think about books that, you know, kids can see themselves in the books, and also those experiences that maybe they can help build empathy. Empathy, as our friend Christy Mraz says, makes our hearts grow bigger. So how do you think your books and books in general play a role in making the world a better place, in building empathy and community? Somebody would like to start.
Well, I mean,
okay, Lynda. Peter.
I'll dive in. By the way, Peter Reynolds here in my hometown of Dedham, Massachusetts. Not far from Boston, and only one block away from my own independent bookstore. So I always like to make a big plug for people to go out.
Bunny!
Yay!
And I think for us, we're lucky that we can really put on these little plays. They happen to take the form of books, but they're plays that can be acted out in classrooms. And the teacher, sometimes it's the narrator, and sometimes it's the kids, and sometimes the kids actually play the roles of the characters. And for me, I like to give kids role models of showing what does bravery look like, what does generosity look like, what does kindness look like. I have one of my books, probably lesser known. I know the Doc and Ish and the North Star, they get a lot of play, but this is a book that I wrote inspired by a friend of mine whose son is on the autism spectrum. And the book is called I'm Here by Simon & Schuster, published by Simon & Schuster. And it really is, it's a way to show kids that there's some people who actually need your help but cannot ask for help. Either they physically can't speak, or emotionally they can't reach out and ask for your help. But enlightened human beings, actually, again, they have a radar. They have a radar to see who out there needs help, needs kindness, needs attention. And in that book, I was trying to show the power of kindness in this school playground where one child is being ignored by everybody else. So yeah, I think it's, we're lucky that we're able to show what it looks like, and then hopefully inspire kids and grown-up kids to follow suit and try it out themselves.
Oh, absolutely. And Lynda, would you like to add to that?
Sure. I have found, like receiving letters and communications from kids, that Fish in a Tree in particular has a really strong kindness component to it, because there is some bullying in the classroom. And it was important to me personally that the bully not change from the beginning of the book to the end. And that was intentional. And I think a lot of kids expect that the bully and the main character are going to be friends at the end. But I didn't want to do that. And the reason is because I think it's more important to show the characters around that unkind person changing. So for example, Oliver is a character that I love in that book. And at the beginning of the book, he kind of slumps into a chair when this character says something to him. But at the end, he just brushes it off, and he leaps into the air, and he, jumps to another desk to tell his joke. And I thought that was very, very important to show kids that sometimes people aren't nice. And if you are not the kind of person who can, it would be awesome if you could speak up for other people, but some kids can't do that. But just within themselves, even the kids that are really quiet, to realize that just because somebody says something to you doesn't make it true. And I find that kids I was a third grade teacher for 10 years. Kids at that age bracket, third, fourth, even into fifth grade, sometimes feel that something is true just because another kid says it to them. So that's something that I speak to kids about. From an author point of view, one thing that really shocked me, everything has shocked me. The contract shocked me, like everything has shocked me. But one of the things I'm really, really grateful for is that I've seen with my own eyes that books do teach kindness and empathy. But another thing I did not expect was that I have talked to a ton of kids that have said to me, I have hope. Like, I look at Carly Connors, and I've been through similar experiences, and I have hope. Like, I can make any life I want. Like, if Carly did it, I can do it. And I think I'm actually welling up a little bit, which doesn't happen too often, but in my head, I'm thinking of these particular kids that I've met. We talk a lot about windows and mirrors, and I know I'm going on a long time, but I'm sorry. Windows and mirrors, but for kids to be able to pick up a book and think and just be able to give themselves a break, to realize that struggling is okay and it's human, and to be able to give themselves a break. So I'll just stop there. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just go ahead and jump in as well, based on what Lynda was saying. Besides the windows and mirrors, that there are also these doors that we enter, and I feel like it's such a safe environment. Kind of from the comfort of our armchair, we're able to see the choices that our characters make, and whether it's a wonderful simple line drawing, or a blue dot, or whatever it might be, we kind of choose these characters. And the whole thing about a children's picture book is I actually honestly believe human beings have a need for story. Whenever you talk to a kid and said, hey, I'm going to read you a story, there's this immediate reaction to, oh, good, we're going to take this time together. It's a collaborative process, And I really see, the way I see stories is a way where we can make these choices through our characters. The kids are able to see, would I make those choices? Would I do those same things? And we're able to learn through our characters, and from there, what I did not realize being an author, and it's something that has been such a wonderful gift, is while I feel like we write these books, or I write my books, I never dreamed what kids would do with the books. Like, it's almost the other part of the story that comes into play, where I think, I'm writing this story, I'm doing this for a certain reason, but then how the rest of the world embraces it, and then they do art or take it into their own lives. That's the other half, truly, of of the entire story, I think.
I'm so happy to hear you say that, Kathryn, because I feel like as we're chatting right now, people are just in awe and watching you, but I think the interaction is really important too. So even as you said, how teachers or students and readers take that story and do something with it, like, we want to hear from the people who are listening at home right now too, and have them interact with us. Like, as you're sharing, how do books bring hope and empathy and community into your lives? Like, we want to hear from the teachers and readers and educators following along, because it is that interaction that gives us another layer of thought and helps us grow our ideas. So much of what you said is that, comes from that collaborative conversation. And I think people who are listening and watching at home, everybody's kind of just awestruck learning from you. And I know that, we're encouraging questions to come from the teachers and people at home as well. So, like, one question that we asked and we want people to ask of you is, what questions do you have for the authors? Who's sitting at home right now saying, I really want to learn from Peter or Lynda or Kathryn, and I have a question for those authors. So we're going to encourage that people will ask that question, and maybe there might be questions you have of each other while we're gathering some of those. Like, I know you may have had a chance, I think Kathryn and Peter, you've met before, but Lynda, you were saying you've never met Peter before in person yet, right? So do you have questions for each other?
Well, I've met Peter, but I haven't met Kathryn.
I'm sorry. I mean the other way around. I'm sorry, Liz. I got that wrong.
I have
do you have questions?
A very cherished picture from Peter. Like, it's right over next to my desk. Love, love, love it.
Oh.
I have a picture of that slide actually in the for everyone to get to see.
A little gift when Lynda came to my bookstore, the Blue Bunny. She did an absolutely stunning show with the kids and the families, and as a thank you, I gave her this little illustration of my version of a fish in a tree. So that was fun.
Love that.
A phenomenal store, Peter. Like, it's just from top to bottom, the selection and the people that work there. It's a really, really special place.
Yeah.
I wanted to say something really quick to Peter. This is completely, completely fate or coincidental or whatever you might want to call it, but I was rushing to, get on a plane, and I grabbed a cardboard with a clear sheet over it, because I was like, I'm working on a book, and I was going to go ahead and use that as a protector. And then when I actually arrived in New York, lo and behold, on the other side was when I came to visit you, was this wonderful print of yours and it says, keep making your mark. But I just was like, was this meant to be or what? So I was so amazed.
The dots are connected always.
Yeah, we're all connecting.
I've seen many, many, many dot bulletin boards in my travels around the country. It's such a great message. I mean, it ties into what we were saying earlier. It's such a great message.
Well, each of you have done that with your books and made such powerful messages. And that's one of the questions we're going to come to, how books can actually, spark movements and actions and ideas. And you've certainly done that in all of your work, which is wonderful. We did get one question, which was sort of a question that we had, we were wondering as well. And this comes from Lauren in, I'm not sure where Lauren is sending this from, but she said, with so much going on in our world right now and so much negativity in the news, how can we keep kindness at the forefront and emphasize unity? What a powerful question, and something to think about. Does anyone like to take that question on?
Well, I'll be succinct this time and just say I think the best way is to be role models for kids. You know, I mean, teachers are out there being role models every day. You know, authors, we go in and we try. I think role models. You know, kids are very, very smart. I mean, if you're talking one thing and acting another, and they're going to pick up on that very quickly. So, role models. There, I'm going to stop now so I don't ramble.
Okay.
I totally agree. I think we have to show, again, you know, if we want our kids to be creative, we have to actually show them what creativity looks like, which is connected to bravery, right? If we want our kids to be brave, we have to show them what bravery looks like. And in the same way, if we want kids to see what generosity and kindness look like, we have to show it to them. And then other ways of showing it is, or getting kids to see it, is to write stories about it. And I'm always encouraging kids to write and draw, but I tell them I'm biased. I lean towards the light and not the dark. And I get kids to try to write positive messages, things that are celebrating the good things about this planet and about human beings. And there's lots to write about. And if we're trying to get our kids to write and tell us what they know and what they're thinking, that's a pretty rich resource right there.
Yeah, and I was going to jump in that with that thought too, where when Lauren was talking about, gosh, there is so much negativity around, and you know, how do we stay focused? And for me, I used to not be able to sleep. I got so upset about things, and I was like, wow, should I just go over and start holding signs up and spending my time doing that? Should I be laying on the ground and getting people to stop? And then I suddenly realized, you know, do what we do best. And also, I'm focusing on the next generation. I feel like a lot of ideas are already set with maybe our generation or even older, but the kids, when we start with pre-K or K or first grade or second grade and even older, and we're talking about character building, kindness, responsibility, talking about respect, being, you know, friendly and community driven, and raising the social climate of wherever they're at, it can make such a big difference. But it is all about reaching out, and that's what our stories and books hopefully do, you know. So that's how I see it.
I want every teacher to be able to see this and have this conversation with their kids, because there's so much. I mean, you know, we have to be cheerleaders and we have to be people who celebrate all of the positive things that are going on in our world. And sometimes it's hard to do, but when we can have that mindset of celebration and approach things, I love how you said, you know, bringing creativity and bravery and connecting those things, and kindness and being role models and lifting people up. And when we can have that positive approach to what we're doing in our classrooms, it really makes a difference. I think it may be something that addresses the next question to our authors, which is what advice would you give teachers that are dealing with you know, addressing negative images and media and stories that are happening in our current events and in our real lives? Do you have any advice that you would give to our teachers that are listening and watching, in addition to some of the wonderful things you've already said?
I feel like, Kathryn, do you want to go first? I don't think you've gone first.
Oh, okay. Well, I've been enjoying listening to what everybody else has been saying, but you know, I honestly feel that you know, we're jumping in with our stories. We're talking about we're talking through our stories about the next big thing, and really, what I'm trying to say is, reading stories, I think, for teachers is the jumping off start. It's a way for us to ask questions, which I think is almost the most important thing, is what do you think of that? As far as my book goes, since, you know, I feel comfortable talking about it, is, you know, why is red doing this to blue? Do you think that this is okay? And it's just one very small step to, well, what would you do if that incident happened? Would you stand up for a friend? Would you help somebody out? And it's this whole opportunity in this forum where the kids can just look at the story symbolically. You know, they see it symbolically, but then they can jump in there And again, it's not even a full step, it's a half step to for teachers to be able to say, how can we improve our school? How can we improve our environment? So it's all about letting them have the book and then simply asking questions and then letting the kids come up with the response and the ideas and the creative journey of how we're going to all work together and how that can happen. So they are already partaking. We ask, and because we ask and we're not telling them what to do, they're all prepared to join and feel like they own that choice. So that's what I think.
And I'll chime in and say that it's great to read about it and to think about it and talk about it, but I think there's nothing like actually doing it. And,
yes.
Right. And I like to encourage people to inspire kids to turn energy into action. Now, there's negative energy, right? And that kind of action doesn't end well. But there's positive energy, and you can turn that positive energy into a project. And what I've been really excited about International Dot Day, which just keeps rolling along and gets bigger and bigger. This year we had over 7 million teachers and kids in 142 countries.
It's amazing.
And they were not only celebrating creativity, but what I really loved is that as you begin to dive in more deeply and understand what does it actually mean to make your mark? How do you have impact on the planet? And how to use your talents and skills to make the world a better place. And those projects are so amazing. And kids, they're hungry to actually do something that's grounded in reality. They want to know, why are they learning? You know, that's a really good question. Why am I learning this? And the reason we're learning to read, write, and problem solve is to make the world a better place. And when kids get a taste of what it's like to change the world, whether or not it's changing their neighborhood or their community, their state, their country, or the world, that experience stays with them and inspires more action. And if it can inspire everybody on the planet to be having these great experiences changing the world, we're going to move this thing forward. So let's all make our mark.
I love that. I mean, I can't say enough of that. And I know that people who are watching, everyone is so aware of the messages that are in your books and the movement themselves. So in posing a question to the audience and to you as well, is how books, you know, can begin those movements. They can begin actions. They can begin conversations, and they're so powerful. And I think everyone is pretty aware, but maybe you can speak a little bit to some of the other things that are happening. Like I know, Kathryn, not everyone may be aware about the spirit birds that are associated with your beautiful hands. And maybe the audience could then add for our eyes and ears to hear a little bit about what's going on in their room in ways that they've used your books or other mentor texts to help to support those kinds of conversations and actions and movement that really do promote empathy and communicating a little bit. So Kathryn, would you mind sharing a little bit about the spirit birds?
Sure. Well, from the book, there's this whole play on words where you can touch, and you flip the page and it says hearts, or lift, flip the page spirit. So it's all this kind of, what can you lift? What can you touch? What can you reach for? But with the spirit birds, what we are doing across the country is getting kids with their beautiful hands, taking a look at them, every nook and cranny, every wrinkle, and realizing their hands are totally unique. It is a call to action book. And with their hands, we paint them, and each of them, with a painted hand, they make a commitment to doing something kind for somebody else. And then what we've been doing is cutting them out, and I make this big wire frame bird. And from there, we put all their commitments in their hands, which make feathers on the bird. And the concept is, you know, when spirits soar, when we put our hands together. But it's sometimes 1,000 hand bird. I'm going to do hopefully one in Denver, where we're going to do maybe 1,500 hands put together. But you see it visually, as Peter, and Lynda are saying. You see it visually, and it does everything. It's like commitment from the individual. It's it's visual, it's an action, and then you see it as a constant reminder whenever you look up and as at this art installation. But yeah, I think we're all kind of doing something and taking action.
It's so mind-boggling to me, because as an outsider learning from you and seeing all that you do, like a question that someone just asked is, do you start with that message in mind? Like, you know, did you set out to say, well, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to include, you know, a movie about being someone's hero, or focusing on, you know, how great minds like is it that idea that starts first and then you grow your characters and your message from that, or do you have the message first? Like, I'm just curious. Or Peter, like, did that come to mind? Someone's asking that question of you, of each of you right now.
No, actually, I never ever have a message in mind. In fact, I very rarely even have any idea of what the plot is. For me, the character sort of drops into me, and it's pure emotion. Like, so for Carly Connors, I heard this 8th grade girl say, I asked the nurse how long I've been out. So originally that first draft began in the hospital. And I felt all of her emotions, but I did not know the Murphys. I did not know what, you know, there was a lot of stuff I did not know. And it's just an act of bravery, as Peter's been talking about bravery, of just putting your butt in the chair and forcing yourself to type, to see what happens. More times than not, things come out of my fingers I did not know were going to come out. And some of my favorite parts of my books, like the pile of friendship bracelets, a lot of kids like that. I did not know that was coming until it came out of my fingertips. So it's all about character and trusting the process for me.
Peter, did we get you unmuted?
I'm not sure. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. By the way, I love technology. How cool is this that we're all connected in places, and all the folks out there on the network, which, by the way, I call this the Kindred Spirit Network, right? We try to find all the people who, you know, share the same beliefs and want to make this thing the world a better place. And this is very cool. As far as the story, I had no idea where the dot was going to. The dot was really a response to working with some kids in a workshop, and I was working with 1st and 2nd graders, and there was this adorable little 1st grader who was drawing on a piece of paper, and as I approached her, she threw her body on top of the paper. And I thought she was kidding, and then I noticed her whole body was shaking.
So much of what you said, it gives the story behind the story about your books. It's amazing. And, you know, we're talking about empathy, which comes from emotion, and the emotion that is evident in all of your work and your experiences is so powerful. And I think that is such a wonderful message to share with kids, to let that emotion be the energy for you to write or to act, or to, you know, to be responsive to the world that in the community that we live in. So I loved hearing all of that from you. One question that I have for you is a flip side, and for all of the people who are listening who would like to respond, we've talked about, you know, these motivating factors and how things can motivate us. Fear can be a factor and a motivator, and some of you talked a little bit about that writing can be scary and you have to be brave, but there's also some joys found in our writing, and I'm wondering what joys motivate you to write. Anybody want to start?
Well, I'll jump in and say the most joyous part of the writing process for me, there is always fear, and I don't know any writer really who doesn't grapple with fear as to will it be as good on the page as in my head, et cetera, et cetera. But I love creating characters. I mean, in my head, I mean, just recently, my main character, because the book I'm working on now is from the first person, she looks over to the right and she sees this boy, and I didn't know he was standing over there, and now he's becoming a really big part of that next book. So I really love creating characters and then diving into them and trying to add layers to them and such.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Lynda. Love that. Peter, would you like to share next?
Just getting that my son Henry Rocket, who's almost 6 years old, just went to sleep, so that's very exciting news. That brings me joy. But I mean, for me, you know, the joy of starting with a blank page and behind and then revisiting those pages is so exciting for me, because I honestly, I'll look back at my journals and I think it's almost like, who did that, or, you know, where did that come from? And had I not put pen to paper that night, that image wouldn't exist. So, you know, I have loads of journals, and I keep these by my bedside, and I jot things down at night, and then I'll just go back later and I'll take a peek. I'm just opening up completely random. I hope this is you can see this. So I have no idea, you know, what was going on that night when I was drawing this, but you know, one of those may be the spark of an idea for me. And you know, one night I fell asleep in bed with my marker, and my hand was on the page, and this little dot grew to, and that was actually inspiration for my book, The Dot. I woke up the next morning and I saw this big dot in the page, and I thought, wait a sec, that's a really cool looking dot, right? At nighttime, at 2 o'clock in the morning, it looked like a mistake, and in the morning, it actually looked like a really awesome idea, which really was the cornerstone of that book. It was to change Vashti's lens. You know, she saw this blank page as something scary, and her teacher inspired her to see it as possibilities. And I think that's the thing that's exciting to me, that, you know, that it's about the possibilities. And I like to show kids my all-time favorite book. And I usually tell them it's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It's my second favorite book, but this is my first favorite book. And of course, there's nothing in here. And kids kind of look at me and they're like, wait a sec, there's nothing in there. And I like to just wait and hear that conversation develop, and kids eventually will say, wow, that's so cool. It's a place for your ideas, your stories, your art. It really could be anything, which I think is, that's what creativity is all about, right? Something out of nothing. And that's pretty powerful.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I was thinking, I want to snap a picture, because all of what, you know, you're sharing, each of you, is something that I can't wait to go back and to share with the students that I get to work with and the teachers that I get to work with, because it's just so exciting. And did anybody else see me jumping out of my chair when Peter showed the notebook with all? It brings us to a little question that is definitely something specifically to the authors, but I know people at home are going to want to know, since this was such a top secret chat, and we were finally able to cite it. Would you be able to share any little secret information about what you are currently working on, or upcoming projects?
I don't want to jump in again first, but Kathryn, you want to go, or?
Already, okay, this question?
Sure.
We haven't heard from you in a while, I think.
All right. Well, I was going to say, yeah, you know, each book that I do is actual response almost from the last book. So, for example, one, I was asking kids to stand up and be a one, and then I suddenly realized through that book, how do you do that? How do you become a one? So 0 was my response to that, about self-esteem, building character, and in order to be able to stand up for somebody else, you have to have courage, be brave, and stretch and grow into that, of course, braver person we hope to become. So it's about the vision. And then 2 came from the teacher saying, hey, can you do something about, you know, kids not playing with other kids and cliques and so forth? And I thought about it for a while, and so came 2. And while I was working on 2, thus came Brett with his situation that was very sad for all of us, but it became the call to action book, What Will Your Beautiful Hands Do Today? And then one of the things that maybe all of us experience as an author is, at least for me, it's when to say no. You know, we're all trying to do all these different things and be involved, and also to know your own boundaries. So I decided to do a book called Draw the Line. And this is about kind of how we define our own line when our lines get crossed. When the line in the book Draw the Line is actually symbolic, where two boys are drawing a line, they bump into each other and accidentally drop their crayons, and then one of them realizes, hey, we can connect our line, and of course the line becomes magic at that point. But at some point when they're playing with this line, they get entangled and there's a tug-of-war, and the way it happens is the line gets frayed and it ends up becoming a crack, and it separates the boys. And the question is, you know, how will they come together again? How will we cross the illustrations are in black and white? How do we go from black and white to realize that there is could be a negotiation? How do we go to that point within ourselves? When you have a rift with somebody, you need to go back in there and say, you know, can it be repaired? Can I do something? And one of the boys looks at it, and, you know, I'll leave it up to you from that point on, because it comes out in 2017. But it wasn't an easy book to do, but it came from a challenge in my own life. So I don't know. Oh, you have a photo in there. How cool. So I actually have illustrations too that I've been working on. Those are the illustrations that I was grabbing along with Peter's wonderful inspiring art. So, but that's what I'm working on.
Awesome book. My cup of tea. And I can't wait for you to.
I'm so excited that you shared, that you gave us permission to share it too, which is wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I have some sketches, but it's all the way over there, so I won't leave my seat, but thank you.
It's okay. Peter, you said you could be a little vague, but you might give us a hint as to what you're working on.
Well, I'm working on a couple of different things. I do about 6 books a year.
Wow.
And yeah, that's about as many as I can do. Although I have a list of probably 400 I would like to do, but you know, I can shave off a couple of a year, and I like to collaborate with people. So, you know, I just finished a wonderful collaboration with Susan Verde, The Water Princess, which is based on a true story of Georgie Badiel from Burkina Faso, about a little girl in Africa who goes on this long trek every day to get water. And if you haven't seen the book yet, beautiful book. The words are beautiful, and I was honored to get to illustrate it. And the money from the advance already has gone to build the first well in Georgie's village in Burkina Faso. So that's a cool project. But coming out this March, April. Actually, today was kind of exciting because I got to hang out with you guys, but I also got the wonderful experience of having a box delivered to me, and I opened up the box, and it's my brand new book. Today was the first day I held this book.
Wow.
And this is the very first broadcast of the book.
Hooray.
It's called Happy Dreamer, and it's published by Scholastic. And this is a peek inside of my head growing up as a kid. And I wanted to celebrate the quirky brains out there, the wonderful, creative, quirky brains that don't fit into boxes very well, and kids who maybe are the daydreamers in school, or the ones that have a little bit too much energy, or you don't quite know where their energy is. I wanted to write a book to inspire teachers and parents to kind of hang in there with kids and let them. And so it's a kind of a poetic peek at me growing up. I'm going to show you the first. This is a double-page spread.
Oh wow! Aww.
I am a happy. So.
Dreamer Maximus.
I wanted to inspire. I mean, talking about being positive and optimistic. This book really is. It's kind of all my philosophy about staying positive, being optimistic, believing in yourself, and realizing there are going to be some ups and some downs and some bumps along the way. But you know, dreamers have this amazing ability of bouncing back and moving forward. And I wanted kids to hear that message early on and say, it's going to be, not only is it going to be all right, it's going to be awesome. It's amazing. And you are going to succeed because of your brain, not in spite of your brain. So anyway, so I'm excited about that. And then I'm working on a sequel to I Am Yoga, which might not be news yet, official news, but I can't say the title, but it's a sequel to I Am Yoga with Susan Verde. I'm really excited about that one too. So, and lots more things to come. And of course, I collaborate with Megan McDonald on the Judy Moody series. There's always a new Judy Moody and a new Stink book. And I'm working on those too.
Cool.
It's so amazing, and I know we're going to get to Lynda next. I just have to say that my cheeks hurt from smiling because I seriously am like so excited right now. Seeing you draw the line, Kathryn, and hearing from you, Peter, what you have coming next. People are watching from home if no one else is, and it's just this conversation because this is like the highlight of my day, of my week, of my year, just to get to know, because are listening in from home and joining us too. They know that this is a group right here that I hope that people can agree with a term that I've kind of coined, the heart print book team right here. And there are many authors who do that for us. But, sight unseen, you hear that Kathryn Otoshi has a book, you're like, boom, I don't even have to check out. And Lynda, to know that you guys have, just keep gifting us with books to put into the hands of kids. It's just so amazing and so wonderful. So now, Lynda, there's a little drum roll because I know a little secret that's going on here. Lynda, you want to share? I got to do a drum roll. Okay, there's my drum roll. Okay.
Well, there are a few things in the works, actually. The paperback of Fish in a Tree is coming out in May. And actually, I'm doing some work on that because the paperback is going to include a lot of really cool stuff. My publisher is adding some really cool things to it, including a sketchbook of impossible things that will be included at the back. And some other stuff that I probably shouldn't give away, but that's going to be cool. And then my middle grade that I'm working on, and I had already mentioned a little earlier, is entitled Shouting at the Rain. Shouting at the Rain. And it's another middle grade. It is set on Cape Cod. It's been a little bit of a moving target, but I am in love with this book and these characters. It's sort of a hybrid of Fish in a Tree and One for the Murphys. And it's about a girl, 6th or 7th grade, who's being raised by her grandmother. I meet a lot of kids that are being raised by their grandmother, and I wanted to show that is a very positive thing. I mean, it really is a positive thing. And then the surprise that JoEllen alluded to is I actually have a picture book under contract. In my next life, I'm going to be an illustrator. But my publisher is now looking at illustrators, and they're putting together a list. But the title of this picture book is Astonishing. And it's all the characters of Fish in a Tree, but younger. And the main character who tells the story is Oliver, because I love Oliver. I think I've already mentioned that. As a teacher, I had a lot of Olivers. The kids, they can't put their butts in their chairs, but they're just so creative and, out-of-the-box thinkers. And that one day they're going to really focus on something they're passionate about and change the world, So that book is from Oliver's point of view. And he gives all those kids in that class, but a younger version of them, a little lesson on thinking out of the box and maybe not being, boring in terms of approaching. Well, I won't give that away. I won't tell the whole story, but I'm really hoping that Astonishing will do for kids with ADHD who are so bright and have so much to offer, but maybe don't fit into the little boxes when they're younger. I'm hoping that will do something for those kids, like Fish in a Tree has helped kids see themselves in a different light, kids who struggle with reading and assume they're dumb. I'm really, really so grateful those kids have seen themselves in a different light now. So I'm hoping Astonishing will do the same.
Oh my, I can't even sit still right now. I'm crying. Oh my goodness, this is so exciting. This is amazing. And you guys are so wonderful and generous of your time to share all of this with us and your talents, and the fact that you're letting us in on these secrets. This is amazing. I can't even tell you how many people are texting me and tweeting me and sending me right now that they can't stand it. They want these books now, so they want you to get off and go back to writing right now. I'm only kidding. I do have a question for all of the audience members. We know that we think you're men authors in our lives, but are there authors who maybe influence you, or mentor texts that influence you in the work that you do over the course of life, or maybe it's someone from your reading timeline and your reading background?
The first one that comes to mind for me is Kathryn Patterson. Like, I am so in love with Kathryn Patterson. Not only as a writer, but as a person. They say don't meet your idols, but I did meet her, and she was just incredible. Reading her books, I think, was a masterclass for me. Before I ever really got serious about publication, she is just so good at character development. She's so good at portraying emotion, and so definitely she's the one that pops into my mind. In terms of more contemporary authors, Leslie Connor is an author that I really loved for a long time. And when the One for the Murphys arc was about to be released, I really had to screw up the courage to write to her and ask her to blurb that book. And that was just a huge thrill for me that she blurbed One for the Murphys. So again, and she is also an incredible person too. So those are the two that pop into my mind first.
Great, thank you. Would you like to share?
I was just going to say, it's interesting when I was reading that, and my whole background is a film background, where I got really involved. I was working at Industrial Light and Magic and had a short stint with Disney Image Movers for a couple of years. But what inspires me is actually other stories and movies. It's actually movies, because I see my books almost as many movies where each characters are being cast. So it's either a blue dot, it could be a robot, it could be a cat. But for me, it's actual inspirational movies like The Shawshank Redemption, or Gladiator, or American Beauty, or I guess I'm a little bit of an anomaly, but I sort of have gone to look at stories from movies as inspirations to how I feel. So I'm actually looking at other characters mostly to inspire me. And I've always sort of been like that. I just will watch movies endlessly. But that's part of my background.
That's awesome.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I loved, all those are all great, fabulous answers. I also see my stories as films when I'm making them.
Oh, wow.
And I think it's good to remind, people that there are lots of containers for stories. Some containers are books, and some are movies, and some are plays and musicals. And sometimes it's dinner table conversation. Growing up in my house, we had 7 people around that table, and story was just a big part of growing up. And we all had to tell a story every single day. You couldn't leave the table without telling some kind of story, whether it was something that happened during the day, or my parents would dig back and tell stories of them growing up. So story was a big part in my life. I'm also a big fan of kids writing. I have a creativity magazine called Hutch, like the place that rabbits live in, Hutch magazine. And we get kids from all over the country and the world contributing their writing. And the freedom that kids have when they're writing, their imagination has not yet been curbed. and edited, especially the younger kids. And so their writing also inspires me. But as a kid, I was read to by my big sister Jane, and she would read us Shakespeare and Dickens. And both Shakespeare and Dickens really dealt with the struggle of being human. And I think that planted some early seeds about how to creatively navigate this wonderful and challenging thing called life. And if you use your resources, you can usually get through it. Shakespeare, not so much. Not too many people survive those. But I'm also inspired by all the books in my bookshop. It blows my mind how much good stuff there is to read out there. Not only the classics, but all of the new stuff that's coming out. And of course, I'm a big fan of Sharon Creech. I think Love That Dog is just the most amazing book, and should be read by everybody. It's just such a lovely, lovely story. So anyway, I could go on all night, but we don't have all night, do we?
We don't have all night. I wish that we did, because I know everybody wants to just listen and learn and continue to benefit from hearing. I know that a minute or two, if anyone had final questions for the authors, because this is such a huge opportunity. One of the things that I really believe is that authors are rock stars, and I know everybody who's listening right now knows that as well. So to view author kidlit rock stars that they are, it's that opportunity to then say, wow, we were able to listen and have a conversation and talk with Peter and Lynda and Kathryn. So thank you, thank you, thank you. That's amazing. And you guys are all so wonderful and general and connected through Twitter and social media. So making that opportunity, I know obviously Lynda and Peter have been part of Global Read Aloud before, and that's a wonderful thing to do into the classroom and connect kids around book. Empathy is a C, which is what Anna Dudney had said, and I think that that's so true. And the fact that we have these amazing books that you gift us with, and it's wonderful. I can't say thank you enough, and I'm so excited to know that you're continuing and tell us your story. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Did anybody have any final questions that we didn't get to? I know Ryan and Chris have kind of been standing by to share anything. It's been hard. I think people have been so engaged in the conversation thing that no one else has gone over to say, let's ask a question. But I'm sure that if questions do come up, we can, we can tweet you or send a message, and hopefully people will want to, the next Ed Collab gathering. I know at NCTE, I know Kathryn will be there. Lynda and I are actually presenting together with Kwame Alexander and Georgia Hurd on Teaching is Heart Work. I didn't ask you, Peter, if you were coming. Are you there this year? No, you're not sure. We're gonna have to go to Blue Bunny Books then. We have to all come make a road trip to Blue Bunny Books. That's what we're gonna do.
Hooray!
I'll go.
Road trip.
All right. Excellent. Thank you so much for everyone, for Kathryn, Otoshi, and Lynda Mullaly Hunt and Peter Reynolds, who don't even need, any other. Everybody knows who you are, and thank you. Too much of a fangirl, and I'm gushing, but I can't say thank you enough because of the work that you do. It really does touch our students, our hearts and their minds. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, thank you, JoEllen.
Thank you.
You are a rock star. You really.
No. Goodbye. I'm hanging up now. Chris wants to share about the upcoming date. Don't forget, April 8th. If people want to participate and join the Ed Collab gathering. And thank you again. And everybody have a great, and I can follow up with all the comments because I know you guys stirred many, many emotions, and it's just been wonderful. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Awesome. Thank
you, JoEllen.
All right. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Kathryn.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Bye.